Whoa. Man said he asked. What's good, y'all? If you're new to the channel, my name is Shadiq and I'm acting KRXOVR Media. I'm really excited to check this one out. A couple daily Duppies dropped over the past couple days that I didn't get to film. Had to take a little bit of a break. After filming and editing that last album reaction, I needed some time, but I want to get straight into this one. People were talking very highly, and I'm seeing that it's 7 minutes long, and it's a daily Duppy, so I know it's probably going to be on that storytelling vibe. But listen, I don't want to hold y'all too much longer. Let's get it.
Yo, I'm trying to be up a little bit. Morrisson. Yo.
I can already tell it's gonna be that storytelling vibe.
We know why they gon' feel.
Straight out the gate. I already knew. I already knew it was about to be one of those. Men started with been shot, been stabbed.
We know why they gon' feel. Being rich, being poor. We know why they gon' feel. Fake for acting so grew up in knee deep in the trenches. We spent most of our lives in jail cause we don't speak when police ask questions. Man, they made us see progression. They rather see you broken stressing. They wanna see me put my mic down, grab my mask and load my weapon. First I asked God to protect me from my enemies trying to get me. Then I started losing my brethren. Thank you God I get the message. It's a cold world.
Whoa. Man said he asked God. Alright. We're taking it from the top. He said, I asked God to remove all the people in my life that had my downfall in their heart. And he lost his brethren.
Yo.
Alright then.
Morrisson. Yo. Being shot, being stabbed, we know why they both feel. Being rich, being poor, we know why they both feel. Fake for acting so grew up in knee deep in the trenches. We spent most of our lives in jail cause we don't speak when police ask questions. Man, they made us see progression. They rather see you broken stressing. They wanna see me put my mic down, grab my mask and load my weapon. First I asked God to protect me from my enemies trying to get me. Then I started losing my brethren. Thank you God I get the message. It's a cold world. Oh well, let's crack on with these cold cells. Let's crack on with these bros and pray our nosy neighbours don't smell. I feel sorry for our old girls and I stress we put them through. My mom is buried a favorite someone I heard the news I couldn't move.
That reminds me, who has a line like that? I feel like T-Way and Fizzler make lines like that very often about like reflecting on how what they're doing is affecting, you know, their mothers in particular. I think T-Way more so, but honestly, they both talk about their mothers a lot in their music. But yeah, if I can think of any other artists who like regularly reference their mothers and like more specifically how their experiences affect their families in particular, let me know some songs that come to mind in the comment section.
Oh well, let's crack on with these cold cells. Let's crack on with these bros and pray our nosy neighbours don't smell. I feel sorry for our old girls and I stress we put them through. My mom is buried a favourite someone I heard the news I couldn't move. Like, what do I say? What do I do? Regardless, nothing to bring him back. I miss you, bro. I blame myself. I could have done more. I let you down. Wish they left you in the can and the feds never let you out. Rather visit you in the jail and have to bury you in the ground. So sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad. Sorry, Joe. Sorry, Ann. Sorry, Sis. Sorry, Steve. See you soon. Roger that. All the family miss you. All the man that miss you. I've got a couple of scores to settle. Then I'm out. I'm coming to visit you. I'm more comfortable around killers than I am around civilians. We do equal splits and we lick it. Then I'm grateful so they keep whinging. And money can't buy the happiness. They can buy you a fancy car. From a B-side and it's Lambo.
You know, we have to put some respect on this flow too, because now that I'm even thinking about it, right? Oftentimes when artists get on these kinds of beats, they have a much slower flow. Like I think he's like at double what would be, you know, the flow that other rappers would be on. Like when I think of artists like, I think OFB had a beat like this. There's a couple artists who had beats like this in their daily Duppies, and he's definitely taking a slightly faster approach than other artists when they do this. And I like that because oftentimes I can get a little bit, I don't want to necessarily say bored, right? But I guess for lack of a better way to put it, I'm going to say bored, just for lack of a better way to say it right now. Like, when I hear those kinds of flows, especially when they tend to do it on the second half of their daily Duppy, it makes it a lot harder for me to really, like, get into it because they just gave me something usually like drill, right? So the fact that he's starting out with this kind of beat and on a way faster tempo in terms of his delivery, he's already putting himself up there in terms of, like, some of the top daily Duppies.
So they keep whinging, and money can't buy the happiness. They can buy you a fancy car. From a B-side and it's Lambo to be selling on the back of a bus. I made my bed, I lie in it. Fancy car. From a B-side and it's Lambo to be selling on the back of a bus. I made my bed, I lie in it. If he's with me, then I ride for him. Being a boss is tiring. With the sacking and the iron. I'm from Lume and it's violent.
I wonder, do Fredo and Morrisson have a song? That's the reason why we're reckless. We're battling with our enemies, so we're battling with depression. And I know the God. I know who else I was thinking about, and as I said the name, I was like, oh yeah, and Fredo had a beat kind of like this in his daily Duppy as well. I'm wondering what Fredo and Morrisson would sound like. Let me know if they have a collab already. Every once in a while, I make these kinds of comparisons, or I say these two artists should collab, and somebody says, oh, they already have. I just completely forgot, or I didn't know. But I think that Morrisson and Fredo could work out, because Morrisson right now is sounding a lot like what Fredo is sounding like on Money Can't Buy Happiness in particular. A lot of the songs had these kinds of themes. Even just the fact that he said, no, he'd rather be sad in a Lambo than poor, than happy and poor on a bus, pretty much, right? And those are the kinds of things that Fredo kind of started touching on a little bit in his own way. So I'm wondering what they could do, together. Maybe interesting, because depending on where Morrisson is from, even it could even be like a tale of two cities. Well, usually that refers to two different experiences in the same city, but they can reinterpret it as like the tale of two completely different cities. But I don't know if Morrisson is from London or if Fredo's from London as well. I don't know, but either way, I think it would be a good concept.
That's the reason why we're reckless. We've been battling with our enemies, so we're battling with depression. And I know that God protects me, but I can't move without my weapon. Cause he's let me down before, my enemies left me on a stretcher, so I stay with it. I'm on the edge, don't play with me. Underneath this drip, I've got that PTSD stain on me. The struggle and the pain on me.
Yeah, this Dilly Duppy is special. For those who said this is up there with Fredo's, I can already see why. I'm only 1/7 of the way in, just barely. And I can already see why people are saying it's up there. Will I say it's one of my personal favorites? No, but that's also probably because Morrisson just isn't one of my personal favorite artists. He's one of those where I can say that he's objectively good, but it's not somebody that I listen to frequently, so I'm not going to sit here and lie. But at the same time, I can also objectively say I understand why this is so highly regarded, because I really like when artists take the opportunity to talk on these things, right, and be very open about it. Talk about mental health, all of them, right? Talk about the things that he's battling with in his mind. Especially now, after listening to Dave's project, I wonder if Morrisson and Dave have a song together. They might actually sound pretty cool too. I'm happy to see so many artists are talking very openly about these things. And does Potter have a Dilly Duppy? Because if Potter doesn't have a Dilly Duppy, he needs a Dilly Duppy too. Because Potter could probably spin this too, this kind of theme. And he talks about that kind of stuff very often. I know that God protects me, but I can't move without my weapon. Because he's let me down before, my enemies left me on a stretcher, so I stay with it. I'm on the edge, don't play with me. Underneath this drip, I've got that PTSD stain on me. The struggle and the pain on me. Mom, don't cry, just pray for me. It was us that shot the block up, but it's them man that are claiming it. Fuck you friends that changed on me. You fell off, now you're blaming me. Now the same man them that ate off me, are the same man them that ate on me. It's a fair game and it ain't honest. I like that, the hate and hate, but like obviously in the UK, I think sometimes some people kind of like don't really pronounce the H's as heavily. I know like Jamaicans do that too, so I like the 8 and 8, but it's really hate and 8,
Blaming me, now the same man them that ate off me, are the same man them that ate on me. It's a fair game and it ain't honest. Yo, I said it's a fair game and it ain't honest, and I'm knee deep in the trenches trying to make it out.
I'm liking the fact that the beat is mellowing out a little bit.
Now he's trying to shake my hand with the same pair of hands he used to try and take me down with. After all the things I did for you, you only talk about them things I never did for you. I ain't perfect, but I've been loyal. You diss me, then you say you're loyal, blood, that's disloyal.
Diss me, I like just to play on diss me and say I ain't loyal, disloyal. This beat, I'm liking it. I'm usually not too much of a fan of these kinds of beats. Again, nothing wrong with it. It's just not my personal preference of beat. I think it's also probably because of where it could take you emotionally, or where you kind of have to acknowledge it emotionally. Like, this isn't a beat to get you happy or like hype or excited, right? This is the kind of beat that you listen to when you're kind of already in that space, or you just like, I want to hear Morrison's story. I want to hear XYZ's story, right? So you kind of already are prepared to feel that energy. But I like this approach. It's definitely one of my favorite beats within this lane, in this genre of Dilly Duppy in particular.
And teamwork makes a dream work, but that can only happen when everyone in the team works, and no one gets to eat first. When we eat together. When we starve together. Smile, cry and laugh together. I'm keeping it moving. Ops got me loading Russians, I'm feeling like Putin. I need to stay around the man them that help me improve, and stay away from man that find a problem in every solution.
Ooh, wait, what?
Improving, stay away from man that find a problem in every solution.
Facts. I can understand that.
Right about the hood, even if you ain't a part of it. Put some tattoos on your face, shoot a bit of dance in it. Put it on the net and probably chart with it. I couldn't count how many times that I got counted out. I went from counted out to counted on to elder man them out. You told the end that you're my hitter, but you never bang for man.
And his flow sequences are really dope too. I don't have the technical terms to describe what he's doing with his flows per se, but I like the fact that he isn't just staying super monotone with his flow the whole way through. He's actually adding variation in there every couple bars.
I couldn't count how many times that I got counted out. I went from counted out to counted on to elder man them out.
See how fast he switched it so seamlessly? Wonder how many beats they're gonna put on this one.
Don't push me, I ain't scared to drop out everyone. And if I lose my odd pass, I'll just buy some extra guns. Bulletproof my whip and roll through any hood. Like fuck 'em.
My man's brave.
And I know a couple friends wanna kill me in it, but you know you can't, cause you know you still need me in it. That's why I keep you close, but I keep my distance. Fuck 'em.
Again, that also reminds you of Dave. He said, one eye on my ups, two eyes on my friends. Because at least on my ups, man knows his intention. He said, one eye on my ups, two eyes on my friends. At least on my ups, man know their intentions. Right? That's from Screwface Capital, I'm pretty sure. Right? Super cool line. And the fact that he's referenced this a couple times now. You feel me? Again, I'm gonna make another suggestion. Morrisson and T-Way might actually work out pretty well too, because in pretty much the whole of 5th chapter, maybe not the whole of 5th chapter, but there were several times in 5th chapter where he talked about dealing with that kind of backstabbing, betrayal kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to hear different artists' interpretation of that kind of story. You feel me? Like, even if it was like, let's say if it was 3 different artists and they had a music video where it was like each of them in their own respective boroughs, cities, etc., kind of navigating that kind of snake, kind of backstabber kind of experience. That might be kind of dope in my opinion. I can see I could probably see like Fredo, Dave, and Morrisson in particular doing that really well together musically, you know?
Cause you know you still need me in it. That's why I keep you close, but I keep my distance. Fuck 'em. R.I.P. Steve-O, man. 0 L's to the world and back. Free Joey.
Wonder what the next beat is about to be. Okay, we're about to get another beat like this. Normally artists would do like a drill and you know what I mean, and this kind of beat.
It's a dog eat dog world. It's survival of the fittest. And it's kill or be killed. I'm from a violent little city. Man take kindness for a weakness, so I have to hide my feelings.
This is the kind of flow I was expecting.
But I acted like I didn't. As a kid I never had much, and neither did my neighbours. We used to run around with bows and tears and all our trainers. We didn't know about designer, cause all our clothes are nameless. We weren't jealous of each other cause we all had nothing to hate on. Then all that started changing when we started making money. Shit was making more than so we started moving funny. Then we started getting hungry. Friendship turned to business. Then we used to be my friends, but then
that seems to be the inspiration for this whole day, Duppy. Just backstabbing, betrayal, just like really reflecting on those experiences and how where he's at now, how it's helped him recognize the people who really didn't have his best interests, or rather, you know, how money and fame and everything can also affect how people around you behave as well. It's an unfortunate thing that they have to navigate, but I appreciate the fact that he's talking very candidly about the fact that he has to navigate it.
moving funny, then we started getting hungry. Friendship turned to business, then man used to be my friends, but then became a competition. Used to share the same vision, same plan, same mission. Then the money broke us up. Take that and Robbie Williams, with his friends that move like siblings. Now we're opposition, so I would've killed it up for them. Now I'm the one that wants to kill them, and they're the ones that wanna kill me. This life's been real G, trap money looking filthy. Clean guns we turning filthy, we were shooting but not filming. The ends to enter Baghdad, homes to enter bandos, good kids to enter bad man. When guns went bang bang, man dropped like a santan. There camp bang scam, shots fired like we sat man. Ain't from Brom but we slash man.
And it's interesting because now I'm also just learning the other day that's how Santan Dave got his name, you know, from the bank and doing scams and stuff. So that's interesting. Yeah, this whole thing is just wow.
Clean guns we turning filthy, we were shooting but
Clean the
filthy.
guns,
The
made
ends to
them
enter
filthy.
Baghdad, homes to enter bandos, good kids to enter bad man. When guns went bang bang, man dropped like a santan. There camp bang scam, shots fired like we sat man. Ain't from Brom but we slash man. Cut his face with a kitchen, track this my
Yeah, I feel like I've heard that before, right? That like in Birmingham in particular, like what we would call a $1.50, you know, when you cut somebody from mouth to ear. That damn, what do they call it? I know I saw it. Whatever, but I think that like in particular, Brum is known for that. What we call a $1.50 here in New York. Wow.
unit, now he's got a $1.50. I don't think I can't talk. Cut his face with it.
What? And I just said $1.50.
Bang scam, shots fired like we sat man. Ain't from Brom but we slash man. Cut his face with a kitchen, track this my G unit. Now he's got a $1.50. I don't things I can't talk about. I'm from a hood you can't walk about. Mama want them Nike trainers, now son we can't afford all that. So I started doing a paper round and my friends started to call me Pat. I got paid for £1 a week for that and I gave my mother all of that. But I grew up in a council house and
Again, talking about his mother, and I'm pretty sure it's T-Way who I'm really thinking of. Because T-Way talks about his mother in particular a lot. He even did a recent interview and he talked about how his mom was the one who kind of put him on to American music, if I recall correctly. So that was also interesting to learn about T-Way, right? But just hearing very vividly how he's talking about how what he did impacted his personal life, and just not necessarily how this, not even necessarily just how it impacted it, right? But more so what it actually looked like what the experience looked like, going from I want this, we can't have that, we can't afford it, to then I'm gonna go do it my way, getting it, and then coming back home. Like just that's a very short span of time to paint such a very vivid and yet chronological, you know, image and story in your head.
Me pat, I got paid for pound a week for that, and I gave my mother all of that. And I grew up in a council house in Everton's council that. I got it from the mud and roll that cycle while I'm a landlord now. My kid's future, that's all pattern now. Me and Steve just went and grabbed a car, brand new Porsche 911, all black like the Panther cars. Hold on, wait a minute.
Oh, black? Is it black like the Panther car? That's what he said. That's really cool.
From the mud and roll that cycle while I'm a landlord now. My kid's future, that's all pattern now. Me and Steve just went and grabbed a car, brand new Porsche 911, all black like the Panther cars. Hold on, wait a minute. You thought I was
finished.
When I was buying all them asses, you thought they was rented. I've been round a load.
Is he gonna do a Meek? Again, talking about the whole, yeah, he's either something happened relatively recently, or he really decided to sit down and really hone in on that. And I can appreciate the fact that even though it's a freestyle, he still chose to find a way to give it a theme the way that you would a regular song. And if it was about to be a crazy drop, I'm sorry, it's a reaction video. It is what it is, but I even like the fact that he has the build up in the beat like Dreams and Nightmares, and then he's alluding to Dreams and Nightmares. Like, that's really cool.
You thought they was rented.
Oh, just running back. So I want to hear that.
You thought I was finished. When I was buying all them asses, you thought they was rented. I've been round a load of snakes that I thought was my brethren. I've been taking loads of L's, but they weren't losses, they were lessons. How you got bottom at to level up, I got knocked down, I kept getting up.
Yes. Yes. I was almost going to say I'm not feeling this one as much. And honestly, I wish that it had the drop a little bit sooner, but I can appreciate what he was doing with it and like really giving you the opportunity to focus on what he's saying. I feel like with the first half of this, it was more so a little bit of a focus on how he was saying it with his flow, like I said in his delivery. Granted, it was very similar topics, but this time it was just like, I'm gonna really make you like hone in on my words. I'm not really a fan of songs like that in particular, and again, not because they're bad, just like in terms of like my personal taste. I don't listen to them that often, but I like the fact that he actually had a beat drop. It's gonna make it that much more exciting for me.
I've been taking loads of L's, but they weren't losses, they were lessons. How you got bottom at to level up, I got knocked down, I kept getting up. I'm in a pop house with a smelly body. When I chop down, I might show you something you're all about. When the bread is up, but you're not about. When the bread is done, come and dropped out. Nearly everyone because you opt out when the pressure comes. You man are broke because you sleep too much.
Please keep going, yes.
I can't sleep unless my peas are up.
I wish this happened sooner.
I'm shotting while you brothers are moving bricks to smoke the profits. Half you need to stop it, even after all the losses. Blood, I'm still winning. Even after all the pain I've been through, I'm still grinning. I'm in a trap with more brick.
I really wish that they transitioned the first beat into this one, kind of like how they used to do on Mad About Bars. I wish that they transitioned it straight in, and I wish that he did that beat drop switch sooner, because you're seeing that what he did was, even though there was a beat drop, he did like the double time flow, and he still was going back to like, I guess like the halftime flow or whatever, right? So there still would have been room for him to do the slower flow. And even if they did something where it's like they introduced the beat drop a little bit sooner and then they mellowed out the beat again, kind of like what Dave did in Psycho and even in We're All Alone, right? Like having a moment where the beat's a little more up tempo, then it mellows out, right? So you can really focus on what he's saying, and then kind of going back a little bit later. Even if they did that like several times throughout, that would have been a really like super duper fire touch in my opinion.
There's no space of furniture, cause every room's filled with plants. I'm from Lume, where the grillers are. The
she's from Lume. Okay, she's from
some
London.
shotters and some killers are. I done a move and robbed 50 large. Dylan wasn't there and I still fucking give him up. Your team ain't as real as ours. We're calling the shots. Not just one of us are on it, blood. We're all on our job. They're just talking a lot.
There's a big opportunity for him to go back to the double time.
Because he wasn't on riding out. Birds keep flying out and money keeps coming in. The bitches keep the door, so we need to.
Yeah, see, like these kinds of beats, you almost have to flow like this, and I'm not really a fan of it. I feel like it does the artist an injustice, because you have to do these kinds of flows, and we already heard what he can do flow wise. So the fact that he kind of has to resort to this is just like, damn, it takes away a little bit in my opinion. But he's on beat, I guess. But I personally don't really like those kinds of flows. It's just a personal preference. Because almost like you have to like dramatically delay your words. It's like it makes you have to put these long delayed pauses in between your words and also drag out the words. That's why I'm not really too much of a fan of it, because it's just like, now I'm focusing on the fact that you're doing that. And yeah, it's a small nitpicky kind of thing, but it's just how I feel. That's the reason why I've never liked those kinds of flows and these kinds of beats. But at the end of the day, I like the fact that he's given us everything. He's given us tidbits of all the kinds of flows and styles that you can have on beats like this. Man said, don't think you can still run up on us just because we out here chilling. This is cold. I can see why people were rating this one so highly. I understand people putting this one like up there with Fredo's. Like it makes sense. It really does make sense though. I can say that for sure. So in this channel we hold the vowels. That means we're getting straight into it. I'm gonna give this one a 9. I really do understand exactly why people like this one so much. I'm gonna keep saying it because that's really the bulk of my commentary. But from top to bottom, his flows were cold. I wasn't really a fan of the flows towards the end, as I already said, but these kinds of beats make you have to flow that way. But I do like what he did throughout the whole freestyle. He really did deliver so many different kinds of flows within very small intervals too. He switched it up so subtly and so intricately and masterfully, like you almost don't even notice the fact that he switched up his flow until you just realize, oh wait, no, this is a completely different pattern than what he was just giving us. I also like that despite he was on these kinds of beats, he still allowed himself to be so experimental and fluid with his flows. Oftentimes I think that artists allow themselves to be a little bit too monotone, but at the same time it makes sense because they're really focused on giving you the story. But I do think that, again, the way that he flowed on it helped complement his story, and also the beats helped complement it too. As good as these beats were for their purpose, they're kind of forgettable in my personal opinion, but they do their job very well. Like I said, these just aren't my personal favorite kind of beats, but I think that within their lane, again, they did a very good job. And normally I'll probably give these kind of beats like an 8.5 from my personal taste, but I like the fact that it had the variations in it to keep it from being too monotone, especially the fact that he did 2 of these kinds of beats back to back. I have to respect it, and the fact that he was able to keep my attention for so long, like genuinely keep it, not just for the sake of the video. So I do have to give whoever produced these their credit, because that's something that I have to acknowledge. And then from the very beginning, I already knew what kind of direction he was going to take with the lyricism here. I knew it was going to be that storytelling vibe. Usually when artists come on Dilly Duppy, they do like a half and half between like drill and like this kind of rap, so that way you get to experience both energy levels. But the fact that he brought both of those levels while still keeping the same kind of content, that to me is something that's really noteworthy. I can't really think of anybody else who's done that off the top of my head. I think maybe Fredo did, but I could be wrong. I also have to acknowledge and give credit to the topics that he decided to dive into here. I haven't really explored Morrisson's music that often, so this is one of the first times I'm really getting a chance to understand him as a person, and that's really one of the main reasons why I'm gonna say this is really one of the better Dilly Duppies, because if you haven't already been exposed to his story, this is a good opportunity and the perfect platform for you to really sit down and dive into his background and what he's really thinking and feeling on a day-to-day basis. But I also have to be really honest as I sit here and reflect on myself and the kinds of songs that I listen to, and also how I may usually want to give these kinds of Dilly Duppies 10s just for the sentiment of what they're talking about and the fact that they're getting really vulnerable and everything. But when I really think about it, I don't play these over, honestly. It's not because there's anything wrong with them, but it's like because they're diving into such deep topics, like I really have to be in that headspace to listen to it, or it has to be on a project. Otherwise, these aren't the kind of things that I go and I play just casually in my personal free time. However, I would sit through this multiple times if I was introducing somebody to Morrisson. This is probably gonna be my go-to song to introduce somebody to Morrisson. So for that, I have to give it its credit. It isn't just like super duper boring and like a drag to listen to the point where I would tell somebody to listen to it, but I wouldn't listen to it with them. So that's the main reason why I'm giving it a 7.5 instead of a 7 for the replay value. But honestly, that's just me again being real with myself and just like really reflecting on the fact that I do not listen to these kinds of songs. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just my personal taste. But nonetheless, this one does deserve its place in the conversation as some of the best Dilly Duppies, especially on the storytelling side more so. He did have some moments where he had wordplay in there, but that wasn't really like the emphasis of this particular freestyle. But let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. What are your favorite Dilly Duppies? Who are some artists you want to hear in Dilly Duppy? Do you agree with some of the artists who I said that Morrisson should collab with in the future? All that good stuff, and as always, hang tight for some more reactions. I do got more of this coming for y'all, but until next time, peace.